Following the Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, the Washington Post reports frustration is growing among Democrats about perceived inaction from the top of the party. The report in the Post reads in part this: to an increasingly vocal group of frustrated Democrats, responses by party leaders have been strikingly inadequate to meet a moment of crisis. They criticize the notion that it's on voters to turn out in November when they say Democrats are unwilling to push boundaries and upend the system in defense of hard-won civil liberties. The paper notes some progressive lawmakers are frustrated. Democratic leadership has so far appeared unwilling to wield their power in a way, they say, that is often done by Republicans. One activist interviewed by the Post talked about similar hesitation by party leaders on issues like police reform and voting rights, saying, quote, "It's very similar to what happened in 2020. Go back to the voting booths. It always comes back to now you, the individual, do something. But we've elected these people who are in office at this very moment to take action on things like this." So, I don't know.
You know,
kind of a good
Willie,
point.
we have a Senate that's split 50-50. You've got a senator from West Virginia in a state that Donald Trump won by, 68, 69 points. You have a senator from Arizona who actually has pretty high approval ratings inside of Arizona because she's charted a moderate to conservative course. It's called democracy. I'm not exactly sure. I understand it's very frustrating for all Democrats. I'm not exactly sure what they expect Joe Biden to do.
Yeah, and the reaction is always tear down the institutions if we don't like the way something is going. I don't think everyone in the party agrees with that. But let's turn to the chairman of the Democratic National Committee, Jamie Harrison. He's here with me in New York. Mr. Chairman, it's good to see you this morning.
Great seeing you, Willie.
I want to talk specifically about that ruling, but just get your take on that story. Is there frustration in the Democratic Party with this president that he should be doing more than saying you have to go vote in the fall?
Listen, I think there's less frustration with, there's not the frustration with the president, it's the fact that these things are happening right now. You know, for the first time in my lifetime, really, I'm 46 years old, we are seeing America take away rights instead of add and protect rights. I mean, that's just galling. You know, I was raised by my grandparents. My grandfather and my grandmother couldn't always vote. My grandmother didn't always have choice over how to control over her own body. And I thought that my kids, we would be building on the rights that they have gained over those years instead of tearing them away. And what we are seeing from this court is just a relentless assault, not only from the court, but also from Republicans in state houses and in Congress, a relentless assault on American democracy and the freedoms that we all enjoy. And so what I think you're seeing is the frustration from folks, particularly the young generation, of what is this? I have never experienced this in my life. We should be moving closer to what the ideals of the founders are instead of moving back. And I think that's that frustration. But what we have to do as Democrats is to bottle that frustration, take that, and make sure that we build the infrastructure to protect American freedoms, to make sure that long term that we never get to this place again. We have to be we have to be more relentless in terms of protecting democracy than the Republicans are in terms of tearing it down. And that is the charge for the Democratic Party over the course of the next few weeks, few months, and the years to come.
A lot of these trigger laws already now going into place, including in your home state of South Carolina, where there's a fetal heartbeat law. You can't get an abortion after the point at which they can detect a fetal heartbeat. What is your sense of whether this energizes the people that your job is to go out and get to vote? We were talking about not just Democratic women, probably some Republican women, independent women, apolitical women whose attention certainly was grabbed by what they saw on Friday in this ruling. Do you expect women to go out and vote on this issue, including some who may not have gone to vote in a midterm election?
I think we are seeing right now an energy and an activism, particularly amongst women, that we have not seen since the election of Donald Trump and the Women's March. You know, what we are seeing is that we have this joint effort with the DCCC and the DSCC. We built out this website called defendchoice.org, and we are seeing a record number of activists sign up because they want to make phone calls, they want to send text messages, they want to do everything within their power in order to make sure we enact change and we secure their right to protect, to control their own bodies. And Willie, I would not be surprised. And, I grew up in the South, in South Carolina, and many times in some of those communities, men and women vote, the husband and wives vote the same way. I would not be surprised that in this election cycle, you get women, particularly in areas like the South, where we have all these trigger laws, and they end up pulling a very different lever than their husbands.
We will see. Joe?
Yeah, I'm just curious, Mr. Chairman, your reaction to these progressives who are saying, stop saying it's on the voters, stop saying it's on us to get people out to vote. I just want to say, remind our viewers that Republicans picked up, over 1,000 state seats, legislative seats from 2010 to 2020. There's a reason why Republicans control formerly Democratic states like Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. There's a reason why crazy legislation is passed into law, and that's because Republicans did the work on the ground. Would you encourage those who are saying it's not up to us to get out and vote? Would you encourage them to refocus their efforts and instead of criticizing Joe Biden, actually doing over the next 10 years what the Republicans did over the past 10 years?
Well, Joe, I would tell everybody we need to do what Queen Beyonce said. We got to get information. We need to build the infrastructure. And that's what I've been trying to do as chair of the DNC. You don't get a whole lot of headlines, but we've been rebuilding the infrastructure of our state parties. Because at the end of the day, what we are seeing is that Republicans have been able to chip away at our rights on a state level. And then that has been able to amplify on the federal level. Well, the only way that you combat that is to build an infrastructure, a brick wall to stop that from happening. And that's strengthening our state parties again. Joe, in 2018, we put $30 million on the ground as a DNC. We have already committed $70 million on the ground. For over a year, we've been building our voter protection efforts. We have voter protection teams across the country. We put organizers on the ground across the country. You don't get a whole lot of headlines about that, but those things are happening right now and have been happening for a year. And so what we have to do, folks, is focus our energy. The enemy is not within. We have to make sure that we push back against these Republican efforts to take away American rights. And you do that on the ground. And that's why we've been focused on registering, mobilizing, supporting grassroots groups like Planned Parenthood and NARAL. We want to see record turnout this November so that we can then, on a state level, make sure that we protect Roe, but also on a federal level, do all that we can to make sure that we codify that. And it's not just Roe, it's a number of other things as well.
Jamie, this is Gene Robinson. So Republicans spent 40 years packing the Supreme Court with justices who would make these rulings, who would overturn Roe, who were against basically all gun control, who had no respect for voting rights. They spent the past 20 years turning these state legislatures from blue to red. So is that what Democrats are now looking at, a 20-year, 40-year struggle to get back to where we were? Or is there a way to do that more rapidly, more expeditiously? And how do you sell a long march to the Democratic Party?
Well, it's hard selling. It's good seeing you, Gene, but it is hard selling a long march because many times our folks are focused on a cycle. They're just focused on what do we do in 2022. But I'm also thinking about what do we want this party to look like in 2032, in 2042? What's going to be the next Georgia? What's going to be the next Arizona? How do we build up state power in states like South Carolina? How do we regain and energize people in South Dakota? How do we mobilize the Native communities? How do we go back and strengthen our connections to Latino communities across this country? And that is what we are focused on. And because sometimes people don't see the end results right now, they get frustrated. And I understand that. I've been doing this for a while. I get frustrated as well. But we got to take that frustration and we have to bottle it and we have to make it and turn it into action. And so our focus at the DNC right now is building a stronger infrastructure so that this party isn't built around a personality or an individual, but long term it's sustainable and it can fight back against these attempts to take our rights away from us.
DNC Chairman Jamie Harrison, thank you so much. And coming up.